Hi friends, I hope you all are doing fantastically well in your respective lives. So here is Kunal Nagpal from Nagpal Economic Academia. And my dear friends, today I'm feeling immensely excited to welcome you to this great forum as we are going to take a very exciting journey in order to explore the remarkable success stories being created by the pioneers of the Indian origin across the various international arenas. And this is really a great moment of pride for all of us. And in today's session, I am very specifically going to focus on the two great success stories which have been created by our amazing pioneers, Mr. Ajay Banga, and the another one is Mr. Punit Renjen. So, my dear friends, Mr. Ajay Banga has actually been nominated by the President of the United States of America to actually preside over the World Bank. Isn't it really great? So, the US President, Mr. Joe Biden, has nominated the former Mastercard Inc. CEO, Mr. Ajay Banga, to basically lead the World Bank, betting the India-born executive styles to the private sector, and the emerging markets will jumpstart the 77-year-old institution's overhaul to better address the climate change in an effective manner. Mr. Biden's nomination on 23rd February 2023 of Mr. Banga, who is actually 63 years old, now a US citizen, all but assures he will actually assume a job that basically oversees billions of dollars of funding as it basically races to help developing countries address the main issue, that is climate change. And this is really the need of the hour. The World Bank on Wednesday, that is on 22nd February, said it actually expects to select a new president by early May in order to replace Mr. David Malpass, who announced his resignation last week after months of controversy sparked by his initial refusal to say if he accepted the scientific consensus on climate change and pressure by the Treasury Secretary, Ms. Janet Yellen, for him to adopt the bolder reforms. So, my dear friends, Mr. Scott Morris, a senior fellow at the Center for Global Development and a former US Treasury official, said, "Actually, I think the speed of the nomination, less than 48 hours after the World Bank Board launched the process, actually reflects a main desire to basically discourage any challenges and hence wrap it up very quickly." Mr. Biden noted that Mr. Banga's decades of experience building global companies and public-private partnerships to fund the responses to the climate change and migration, and said he had actually proven track record working with global leaders. Mr. Biden further quoted that Mr. Ajay Banga is actually uniquely equipped to lead the World Bank at this critical moment in the history, hence hailing the business executives' Indian roots and knowledge of the challenges facing the developing countries and the ability to mobilize the private capital for tackling the big problems which actually need to be addressed with a very far-sighted approach in a current era. I repeat this particular quote by Mr. Biden as it is very significant. He says, Mr. Ajay Banga is actually very uniquely equipped to lead the World Bank at this critical moment in the history. Yes, it is a very critical moment in the history because actually the major global headwinds have engulfed the entire world, and hence they are putting an immense pressure on various economies across the globe. And as we can see, various economies have survived, and some economies are surviving through the major policy paralysis in their respective countries. This is really a very, very sensitive phase, my dear friends. And he quoted this particular statement, hailing the business executive's Indian roots and the immense knowledge he basically has in actually facing with these challenging times, especially the major challenges facing the developing economies and the excellent ability to mobilize the private capital to tackle the big problems. That is the main ability, the main trait to actually optimize the resources, to actually make the best possible utilization of the available resources in such sensitive times is the main trait. This is the main trait of a successful leader. And isn't it really great that the international agencies, the international leaders are finding that particular talent in the human resources of the Indian economy? Our soil, the soil of our motherland, is so much worthy. Every nation is realizing it now in such critical times. This is really very great, and this is the real role of an angel. Furthermore, Mr. Moreno said he can really be a great force for change, an excellent force for change, noting that Mr. Banga enjoyed the trust of the financial markets. My dear friends, India was actually expected to support Mr. Banga's candidacy, according to Mr. Krishnamurthy Subramanian, the former top economic advisor to the Indian government, who actually now serves as India's executive director at the International Monetary Fund. It is really an elegant solution. Yes, it is. Now let's try to explore the core rich diversity of our economy, which is really creating wonders across the globe. My dear friends, the bank has actually historically been headed by someone from the United States, its largest shareholder, while a European heads the International Monetary Fund. But the developing countries and emerging markets have actually pushed to widen those choices. That is, we are actually becoming successful to break the trend which was being followed since long. As has been mentioned, that the World Bank, specifically speaking, has historically been headed by someone from the United States of America, which is its largest shareholder, while a European heads the International Monetary Fund. But now it's the turn of India, especially in such critical times, in such sensitive times. If these international agencies are able to build the utmost trust on an Indian pioneer, this is really a moment of great pride. And it really explains the divine glory of our economy, how rich our country is in terms of its irreplaceable talent. My friends, in Hindi it is actually said, "Sone ki parakh asli sonar ko hi hoti hai." So our country is actually proving itself that it is the golden country hence embarking the golden era for the entire globe. This is really great, and that's why our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has very correctly quoted that it's the Amrit Kal, not only for the Indian economy, but for the entire world, because India is not only being able to sustain itself, but also acting as an angel to help sustain the global economy. Yes, my dear friends, we have been helping Sri Lanka during its difficult times, as all of us are quite aware of this particular fact. Also, currently, as we know, that Pakistan is also going through a very tough time, and India is playing a very major role to help, to actually provide the best possible help from its end, forgetting all the enmities it is having with Pakistan. Moreover, other examples like the basic, like the help of the basic amenities and the COVID vaccines we provided to major economies across the globe during the pandemic is really another example to be really proud of. And that's why India is the bright spot in the gloomy global economy. And I'm very sure, all of us are very sure that the entire prospects of this globe will change from gloomy to the bright spot. Further coming back, Mr. Banga's nomination is actually the first to be made public. But the World Bank will accept the nominations from other member countries through March 29. Germany, another major stakeholder, is actually going to do another development in this particular week. That is, it said the job should go to a woman since the bank has never been headed by a woman. This is the point being stated by Germany. A senior US administration official said they did not know if other countries would nominate the candidates for this particular post. Asked about Washington's decision not to nominate a woman, the official said Mr. Banga actually had a personal conviction and excellent track record promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in the work that he does, and would very excellently bring that particular view to the World Bank. But Jeff Hosser, who actually heads the Progressive Revolving Door project, demanded Mr. Biden retract the nomination of a top official from a rapacious international private equity firm who had previously worked only in the private sector firms. Neither the private equity, nor Mastercard, nor Citigroup, nor PepsiCo, nor Nestle, nor Dow promote the shared prosperity. They all do vastly more to actually exacerbate inequality than to fight it, he said in a statement. Oxfam International said the next bank president should actually be chosen through a transparent global process. The World Bank is actually not the Bank of United States of America. It's actually a commercial bank or a private equity firm. For a job of this stature, we need more than a tap on the shoulder from the President, Mr. Joe Biden. Banga is actually the vice chair of the General Atlantic, a US private equity firm that administration officials has actually invested over $800 million in the EV charging solutions, solar power, and sustainable farming. He retired in December 2021 after 12 years at the helm of Mastercard, where the administration officials noted that he helped 500 million unbanked people join the digital economy, averted layoffs of the bank's 19,000 employees, during the COVID-19 pandemic and led the work on climate, gender, and sustainable agriculture. So, my dear friends, this really very extraordinary success and the great work done by Mr. Ajay Banga is actually self-explanatory. Why has he been nominated for the post of presiding the World Bank? Furthermore, the Vice President, Ms. Kamala Harris, said Mr. Banga brought great insight, energy, and persistence to his role as co-chair of the Partnership for Central America, which has actually mobilized $4.2 billion in public, private, and non-profit funds to basically advance the economic opportunity in Northern Central America. So, my dear friends, we have been able to realize the core rich diversity of our Indian economy, which is actually helping to provide the angels to the global economy in such tough times. The great talent is actually acting as the Sanjeevani booty for the entire globe to help it overcome from the very major crisis. Furthermore, as I stated in the beginning, let's discuss another success story being created by Mr. Punit Renjen, who is an asset from the Indian soil. My dear friends, the Indian origin business person and former Deloitte global CEO, Mr. Punit Renjen, is actually in line to become the next chairperson of the global software management platform SAP. The supervisory board of SAP SE has actually nominated Mr. Renjen to stand for election as a new member of the board and hence proposed his name as the designated successor to the current chairman, Mr. Ajay Banga. My dear friends, the next step is actually Mr. Renjen's candidacy for the supervisory board, which the shareholders will actually decide upon at the annual general meeting, that is the AGM, on 11th May 2023. So, upon election to the board, the handover process by Mr. Platner to Mr. Renjen will begin. Mr. Platner's term expires in May 2024. And if approved by the board, Mr. Renjen would be the first non-German to actually chair a DAX 40 company. So, with an impeccable track record, Mr. Punit Renjen is actually very highly qualified to join the supervisory board and hence would be an excellent candidate to eventually take the chair at a time when SAP is actually undergoing the most fundamental strategic transformation in its 50-year history, the company said in a statement. And in order to further elaborate on his profile, I would like to state that Mr. Ajay Banga, who is currently the chairman of the SAP, he is actually 79 years old, co-founded SAP in the year 1972 and has served as a chairman since 2003. So, after this another great insightful session on Mr. Punit Renjen's success story and how he is acting as the great talent and as a great resource for the global firm SAP. I really hope you have been benefited immensely and you all have been able to realize the core rich diversity India possesses in terms of possessing the strong credentials, the strong prospects That is the very noble responsibility for uplifting the prospects of the entire globe. And this is really beautiful that our economy is being entrusted upon in such critical times. This is really great, really very, very great.